Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the 100X YouTube channel. Uh, Today, we have a very exciting session on Ask Me Anything on 100X.VC Class 03. Appreciate you taking the time out. My name is Shashank Randev. I am the founder VC at 100X.VC. Uh, a, a quick background about 100X.VC. We are an early stage fund set up in the year 2019, investing in early stage startups using India safe notes. We fund exceptional Indian founders. We move fast and we value time. We are in the people business and we work hard to inspire confidence and engage with every stakeholder. We are a SEBI registered category 1 alternative investment fund. And after having invested in startups through our class 01 and class 02, we have now opened our applications for class 03. And as we continue to invest in as the first check in early stage companies across India, we are inviting applications for class 03 with a deep commitment to emerging technologies. So today's session is all about how we are investing, and we've got an interesting set of folks who will be discussing and sharing their thoughts. So I'd like to bring up Ninad Karpe, who's the founder and partner at 100X.VC. We've got Rajit, founder
Hi.
and CEO of Data Sutram, and a 100X funded company from Class 01, and Evelyn, Immanuel, founder of myava.in, funded portfolio of Class 02. So welcome all. Appreciate you taking the time out, and excited for the next 45 to 50 minutes on Ask Me Anything on 100X Class 02. So I'd like to begin with Ninad. Um, you know, 100X.VC has been backing early stage entrepreneurs over the last 1.5 years. And yet, a lot of people, a lot of our viewers are still unaware of how 100X operates. So, what is 100X.VC's investment thesis, and what is Class 03?
Thanks, Shashank. Delighted to be here and share my thoughts. 100X.VC is unique. It's the first VC in India to get what we call iSafe note. I'll elaborate on that later. We are a discovery platform. We discover excellent startups. We write the first check. We are the first institutional investor in any startup. So we are sector agnostic and we invest in a startup from any sector. So if you have an exciting startup, you want to be the first investor, you're looking for the first institutional investor, look nowhere, come to us, we'll evaluate and tell you very fast, and we'll invest with iSafe Note. I'll talk a little bit more about iSafe later. The startups we select, we have had two classes, class 1 where we funded 20 and class 2 where we funded 9 startups. So we do this investment in class model. We are now opening our applications to class 3. So if you have an exciting startup and looking for first investor, please apply to us. We select these startups, we mentor them, and we take them to a next round of funding when we have a pitch day. And last time, over 500 family offices and VCs saw the pitch day. In brief, that is what 100X does.
Shashank, you're on mute.
Sorry about that. Thanks, Ninad. Rajit, you've been an early portfolio startup of 100X.VC and were part of Class 01 and have recently raised a round from an angel network. What's been your journey so far in terms of raising your first check through 100X.VC and over the next few months? Can you help our audience with some anecdotes or some experiences from your side?
Sure. Firstly, thank you, Shashank, for having me over. It's great to see you, Ninad, again, and Evelyn also. Pleasure to meet you. So I think we started this company, me, Yoshik, Ankit. I am founder of a company called Data Sutram. We are an AI deep tech company. The idea behind our startup came from an hackathon which we had worked on during our college, and that eventually that hackathon and a project converted into a product idea. So I think one of the first things as an entrepreneur, when we start building a product, we need the time period, we need the capital to understand that there will be a time period when I will focus on building a product, not get that revenue. And at the same time, we have to keep on building it. And that's why the first capital is very important for a product company. And it's also a validation for an entrepreneur that when you're embarking on a journey, on a journey to build something, especially in AI and deep tech, for someone to believe in you is very important. I think that's the first reason why, as an entrepreneur, we decided to raise capital. And had just graduated. We were in my final year of college, not even graduated, when we formed this company. And after graduating out of college, the first thing that came to our mind is that we had left past our placements. We didn't have any job backups. So it was very important for us to raise capital and have that backing so that someone trusts us beside us. I think that's the first thing you need, for someone to stand beside you and tell you that it's okay, go and do it. And I think that's where for us 100x VC came on to as a opportunity. And it all started out of a cold email. I remember sitting in my grandmother's house. That was our office space back then, and in that drawing room, and me, Oshik, and Ankit used to think what to do, and we used to shoot cold emails to every opportunity we had, and we had engaged with some investor. And that's when I think my first mail went, and I had interacted with Shashank, you, and Vatsal. And I think after that journey came, and 1 week later I was in Mumbai pitching to all of you there, and I think it was a wonderful experience. And for someone in Calcutta that doesn't have that much of a startup ecosystem, to go out there, meet seasoned investors like you and pitch an idea and getting a response is a huge validation for an entrepreneur, that gives them the confidence that you go out there and do it. And I think after that, those 3 months and those experience, what added as a value to me or to my entire team and the founders was belief, was confidence, and was experience. I think what is the investor mindset, something that we learned from you, for you guys, that how does an investor treat a startup, or what is the investor looking for when a startup is pitching to. I think these are very important lessons that we learned. And after that, the journey to raise my next fundraise was a smoother journey. I still remember that it was just a matter of a session which changed the responses to my pitches. I remember pitching to over 40 investors and getting rejected at the end of my pitch day. But after that, working for 2 weeks, getting the inputs, it took me just a matter of understanding the investor mindset to get it started cracking. And then I received positive feedbacks. So I think it's like going from 0 to 1, and that step is very important. And that's where I think 100x has played a huge role. And I think where I feel the experience comes into value.
Great, thanks, Rajit. Evelyn, you're the most recent entry to 100x portfolio,
Yeah.
and were recently part of the Class 02 portfolio startups. What's been your journey? And you're in a very interesting space, and we're glad you chose 100X.VC as well to partner with. But what's been your journey so far, and how was your experience in terms of raising your first check?
Sure. Thanks, Shashank. Thank you so much for having me today. It's nice of you to say that I chose 100x, but I have just been almost stalking Sanjay Mehta and 100x, since day one, that we decided that, okay, let's go out and kind of raise a proper institutional check, right? Because for me, I've always, I had close to about 9 years of experience into working. I used to work with startups mainly, and that's what kind of intrigued me into starting up myself. But more importantly, to kind of get the right investor, it was something that was completely that I did not really think that I would be able to kind of get 100x to partner with us. But it was very, very gratifying. Like Rajit put it really well, right? That validation, what you get once you kind of you have the backing of 100x, or even Sanjay Mehta for that matter. The preparation that I also personally did in terms of looking at more of these live sessions like the ones that we're doing today, understanding where 100x is coming from, the kind of the kind of detail oriented that 100x is to every kind of topic that you all speak about, that gave me the confidence that this will be the right kind of team to partner with. So the journey has been fantastic. Honestly, the first day that I decided to kind of go out there and actually raise a proper institutional check, I wrote off the next 6 months. I said fundraising is going to take 6 months. Let me just, kind of write it off and say that our first check is going to come, after 6 months. And like Rajit, I also just shot out a cold email and I said, okay, I didn't really expect a response at least for a month. And it was fantastic. I was just probably sitting down evening and having my cup of tea when I received a call from Shashank, and he casually goes like, hey, I'm Shashank from 100x and we'd like to know more. And I was like, whoa, that is really fast, right? And honestly, from there to kind of go to the first call, the video call that we had in terms of me explaining what we're doing at Ava, right? And Sanjay and the entire team kind of joining that call, that shows you the pace at which you guys move, right? It's really fast. So honestly, that 6 months seemed like much lesser, coming a little more closer to kind of raising that first check for me personally. So that has been a fantastic journey. So again, me coming into the healthcare space, we are into the women's health and wellness space where we're catering to women suffering through chronic conditions like PCOS, thyroid, etc. So, that space also kind of, it was great to see that 100x was sector agnostic, right? You believed in the founder, in the business, and what is the problem that the person is trying to solve. That was more valuable, which again, I found really intriguing. Like an investor is not saying that, this is a sector that I'm going to invest in, but you're looking at the actual merit and the credit of the problem, the business, and the founder. So that was fantastic.
Great. Thanks, Evelyn. So my next question is to Ninad. Evelyn touched upon that we are sector agnostic, and 100x is its approach is very sector agnostic. Yet 100x invested only in 9 companies in certain specific sectors in class 02. So for our audience, could you help us understand how 100x is investing and what are the current themes 100x is looking at in terms of sectors?
So 100x is sector agnostic. We do not follow any particular sector. We are looking at startups which are scalable. We are looking at startups which have business model which can scale rapidly, a huge market size, and something which has an unfair advantage or a moat. These are broad criteria on the basis of which we invest. We have done 29 companies investment so far. We are looking at the next class. We are not again looking at companies connected to any particular sector. We are looking at companies which will just scale. We are now living, we have had obviously the last 6 months have been difficult for the entire business community, for all of us. And we are looking at a different world. We are looking at companies which will scale in this new world. And it can be from any sector, absolutely any sector. We do not have any preference.
Thanks. A question to Rajit and Evelyn, both of you. Now, and a lot of founders who are looking to apply and be part of Class 03. How is the process at your end in terms of applying and then getting the funding and the journey post that in terms of business metrics or business networking or just getting in touch with investors? Could you give a glimpse of the Evelyn, for you, the last 2 months, and Rajit over the last 9 to 10 months, and give a perspective to the other founders who are watching the session in terms of how you were able to leverage network from 100X.VC.
Right. I'll just go first. So, Evelyn, you want to go ahead?
Take it.
Okay. So I think the point that comes to my mind first is I feel for us it's very important when we are going for business for scale. For whenever you're building a deep tech or an AI product, there's this entire journey of finding a market fit. You have a product and you want to find a market fit. And when you want to find that market fit, you need to enter industries and experiment, honestly. You need to go into companies, big companies, and try out things and see where it works and provide value. And for this entire thing to happen, it's very important for the other side. So the client also plays a very big role in your product market fit development. And I feel that's where client has to trust you, the client needs to come on board with you, and the client needs to be ready to get value from you. And for that, I feel in enterprise sales or in any form of B2B companies, specifically in tech, there needs to be a belief from the client side on the founders, on the entrepreneurs. And that's where the investors who are backing the entrepreneur, the startup, is very important. I feel whenever I go and talk to clients, one of the things that they ask is who is backing you, who are the investors. What they want to know is there anyone else who has believed in you or trusted you. That's the most important thing. And I think that is what 100x, and I think that is what the value of the first institutional investor needs to bring in. And that's where I think 100x does a good job in terms of with people like you, Shashank, Ninad, Sanjay, Yagnesh, everyone on the team. There comes a value, there comes an industry experience which talks about why that company needs to be given a chance to experiment. It's the same thing as when, let's say, a company is applying for a project, anything. They look at who the CEO is, who look at the background, they look at the main 5 members. For a founder, for a startup, they don't have those many high profile personals in the starting. And that's where I think the investors, the roles play a huge role. And the references, the connections, for people can recognize just by looking and who can go by one word. I think the reference and validation is again one of the key factors I would like to highlight on as to why even in terms of business matrix, investors are very important, and the institutional investor especially is very more important. Evelyn, anything? Yeah.
Sure.
Evelyn?
No, so for me specifically, starting from day one, right, post receiving the check, which was really quick. I think it took about 8 to 10 days from our first call to actually the money hitting the bank. For me, I thought that is where it ends. That's what an investor does. They provide the check. But I was blown away by the kind of master classes that 100x conducts, the kind of industry exposure that we've put to post raising the check. I mean, I think it's just not the check that 100x brings to the table, but the kind of experience and exposure that they provide in terms of whether it was the master classes or the networking, because each one of us is trying to understand so to say, the science of entrepreneurship, right? It takes so much to kind of understand go to market strategies, to understand from somebody who's coming with so much of experience, probably people who have started up themselves, been serial entrepreneurs. The kind of exposure that we got post that immediately after, probably 10 days up to 10 days after raising the check, that was something that was really, really helpful for me. In fact, even in terms of something really small, like even pitching your own startup, I got so better at it. I understood that the business that I was in, which I thought, I was pitching really well, I think that improvised to a great extent. And in terms of networking post the whole, the session, the whole demo day, the pitch day that gets done, the kind of exposure that we get, and we don't have to introduce ourselves more like, I am an entrepreneur, I'm trying to do this. If we just say that we're backed by 100x, the value that it kind of brings, to your conversation, that is something that was really astounding, that I kind of started observing. So, like Rajit said, right, anywhere you go, the first question that you're asked is, are you tied up with somebody who brings value, or are you backed by an investor who brings value? And immediately when there is a name that they can resonate with, they can kind of connect with, that brings that makes them sit down and listen to you. That is one change that I kind of started seeing. And the involvement of the team. There is not one person on the team that, I might just sound like I'm kind of blowing 100x trumpet here, but then the kind of involvement that I have at least seen from each member on the team has been immense. From one text that I can send to anybody on the team, whether it's Shashank, Ninad, anybody on the team, right? I get an immediate response and things are seen through. And that is what pushes me also to ensure that, the whole company as such is moving at the pace that 100X is moving at. So yeah, that's fantastic.
So my next question is to all of you. I'd like to begin with Ninad. We've got a question from the audience, and I'll take that up. What sort of revenues does 100X.VC look at before investing? What if it's a business that has a team, they have a scalable model, and the product is ready, but they have zero customers? How would 100X look at that kind of a offering? Ninad, Rajit, Evelyn, anyone? Beginning with Ninad. Ninad, you'll have to unmute yourself.
Yeah. So well, obviously revenues, if they are there, it helps. But if they're not there, Rajit will tell you his actual experience. We don't look at that as the sole criteria. We have to be convinced that you have all the other parameters in place. Revenues is good. If it's not there, it doesn't mean you get disqualified. Rajit is the right guy to respond to this.
Right. So I think I have been faced this question before also, and I'll answer it. I'll try to answer it as honestly as possible. See, if you do not, and this is completely from a founder's perspective. If you have a product with zero customer, then honestly you do not have the product yet. It's a technology that you probably have, or a concept or an idea that you have. A product is when you have a customer, and I think that is something we all learn. Even I thought that we had a product with zero customers, and I was probably facing the same question that the fellow audience who has asked this has. And I think one of the things that I learned over time is that customers are very important and are a part of the journey. But if you are building a tech product which takes time to build, and customers and market fit is a part of the process, then it's normal to have zero customers, and it's nothing to be I would say shy away from. But what is very important is the product you're building. Why are you building it then, and what are you building it for? Is it a real problem that you're solving? If the answer is yes to that, then I think zero customer is honestly not a problem. Revenue is not a problem. But if the problem is something that is not yet validated, then you might take a step back and think at it, just from an entrepreneur's perspective. Because if you're not convinced about the problem, then it may not be the right time to raise a fund. Maybe when you know that this is the problem, revenue, no revenue, not a problem. But if you know this is a problem that is needed to be solved, and you have a customer, and you have probably no clients who would probably pay for it, then it would be a best case scenario. I think one of the things that, even though we did not have any paying customers at the time I raised my first check, or I had experiences with industries. I had pilots done with companies. I knew that the problem that I was working on was a real problem, and I knew customers would probably I knew customers would pay for it. So that's where I had done my market research, right? I think that's the part we need to cracking before the fundraising aspect comes in the life of an entrepreneur.
So Shashank, I always tell founders, don't fall in love with your product.
Yeah.
Now, if you fall in love with your product, be passionate about it. You have developed it. You thought that's a great idea. Absolute passion, deep passion for the product, not love. Slight difference. Fall in love with customers, right, Rajit and Evelyn?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Customer is God.
Yeah, love the problem more than the solution. Solutions can be 100. You need to kind of figure out, after talking to probably 100 people, 1,000 people, right, what they resonate with. But I think if you really care about the problem, you will, and it's a valid problem, again, going out there. One very personal thing that I'd like to share, that we started off as a very small Instagram profile, which formed, for anybody who's into the B2C space, you can pick up on this. It's a fantastic way to validate your, solution, or probably the solution that you're thinking should be out there, right? Where you can really connect with the user on the platform and actually validate what you're thinking of. You can tell them, this is a solution. Do you kind of resonate with it? Is it something that you would like to have, right? These are market research points that you can do on Instagram. So I think we started off there. Any social media platform for that matter, you can go out there, talk to customers. The best thing is to just keep talking to as many people as you can who are your potential customers, and actually receive that kind of feedback. If a founder is having those horseblinds around you and you're not really listening to your users, that can be a problem, because there can be a lot of solutions out there. You just need to figure out the right one.
Got it. We've got another question which is somewhat similar, and I'll also chip in after your answers. Is 100X.VC technology specific? As some technologies like AI, ML, blockchain, etc., in some products is brought in based on user behavior rather than starting something out. So I think what the user is trying to ask is, is 100X.VC focused on certain technologies, or is it also looking at sectors which are non-tech or asset light, and possibly CPG products in FMCG? Ninad, this one's specifically to you, and I'll also like to add over here.
The short answer is no. We have funded Rajit in data, Evelyn, healthcare related. We have funded in class one a company which is into chocolate fudges. I mean, we have a whole range of companies. Certainly not any particular technology, but obviously for a scalable model, technology has to be a backbone that helps to scale. But that's a given for any business today. But we do not have any particular sector preference at all.
Just to add to that, and this question is by Kapil Jain. Kapil, we at 100X, we are the first institutional check for our portfolio companies, and the core objective is, can we add value in the short term, in 3 to 6 months for our portfolio company? And that is in essence of getting them customers through our network, getting them streamline their businesses, and eventually getting them ready for a larger round. And in that context, if it's a CPG business, if it's a FMCG business, if it's a tech business, if it has potential to grow and accelerate over the next 3 to 6 months, then yes, 100X.VC will invest in this, subject to obviously looking at the founder's team, pedigree, so on and so forth. My next question.
Shashank, it may be the right time to just speak briefly for 60 seconds about iSafe. iSafe, the full form is India Simple Agreement for Future Equity. 100X has pioneered it in India. We're the first VC fund to bring it into India. It really obviates the need for any detailed agreements. It's a convertible. You give a fixed amount, and that money is converted after some trigger points are there. It's a simple agreement, 4-page, doesn't involve lengthy discussions with lawyers, and there are times you've signed it within no time. It's so founder friendly. You can check all the details on our website, 100X.VC, iSafe, and you will really figure out that it's the most founder friendly instrument in India.
Thanks, Nirad. My next question is more towards Evelyn and Rajit, and this is a question which we have seen some of you being part of our portfolio companies ask us as well, and a lot of other founders who we interact with. Why do how do you assure that the founder's work is safe if 100X or any other VC doesn't fund them? And you've shared your details, you shared your pitch deck, and you shared certain numbers. What do the founders do then? Is it safe? The whole concept of how much information should you share till the time you get a commitment from a VC?
I think I'll take that. So I think how else would you raise money, right? You can't go and tell somebody that I'm having like a fantastic idea. Would you write down a check for me? Right? You need to tell them what you're doing. It's as simple as that. And I think what I have personally realized is the more you talk about what you want to build, the more you talk about what your solution is, the more better. It helps you even iterate your solution, your product, XYZ, right? Depending on the feedback that you're getting. And More importantly, no product, no company, kind of, it just boils down to somebody having an idea. An idea is, there are so many ideas out there. It just boils down to execution, a dozen a dime, right? So you need to kind of understand that it'll definitely boil down to the execution that you do. I have personally faced this where, probably I've gone out and talked about my product, and, somebody else probably a month later is doing something in the same space. But it just boils down to what, how you're executing it, the thought process you have behind it, and the way that you lead this company or lead the business, and just talk to everybody that you can. Don't, not only investors, talk to every person who you come across. Somebody asking you, what are you doing these days? Talk about your product, talk about your solution, look at what they think about it, right? So I think you just share it. Do not worry about it. Whether it's 100x, whether it's any other investor, go out there and kind of share what your idea is.
So I think my take on this is a bit personal, and I'll just feel that, imagine I'm writing for a paper. I'm writing my thesis in my science, and I have to go and publish it in a research paper. It can be an IP, it's a patent, right? Even if you're patenting something, at the end of the day, even if you're filing for a research paper or a patent, which is highly intellectual property, you are giving it to a committee who is scrutinizing it and scanning it, and so even then you are at the risk of someone taking your idea. As an entrepreneur, you cannot afford to be at the risk of, you can't be scared of people taking away your idea. You have to have that belief in yourself that even if someone will take your idea, I will do it better. I think that's the most important thing, because honestly, there cannot be a market without competition. If it's a market without competition, it's probably not a market at all. So there are certain stuff like this. So I feel that it's not a valid concern, in my opinion, because honestly, investors are not here to take your idea and build a company. Investors are here to finance and products, and do it for a very different purpose than why a founder does a company. So I think it's very important to understand the roles that an investor plays, the role that a founder plays. And even in case the investor is a founder who is at the prospect of taking your idea and making a company, even if I go and take that hypothetical case, I feel you should always have that confidence in you that you will do it better. So I feel that concern should not be a valid concern if you are in the process of raising capital to build a scalable company.
Another question to Evelyn and Rajit. A lot of founders ask, and if it's a tech-enabled company, or if it's a non-tech enabled company as well, in terms of how to hire early employees. So if it's an AI-driven project, how do you hire AI specialists? And you've been in a journey, both of you, over the last few months in terms of scaling your product, reaching out to customers despite COVID, and accelerating that process. And you've also required people to come on board. What is the few advice or points which you'll give out to the founders in terms of leveraging, let's say, social media, or reaching out to potential employees, and how to kind of close that process? Any insights, thoughts, Rajit and Evelyn?
So I think in terms of AI hiring, and in terms of hiring talent who can execute technology, and even if it's AI or marketing or sales, it does not, I mean, any field, anyone who is skilled in a particular field, I feel the entire process of hiring is something that honestly, as three people who came out of college and never sat for a single interview, was ironical. I mean, I have never sat for an interview, so I don't know what the interview process is like. So for me to build, right now we are sitting on top of a 20-member team. So I think it was really fun. It was very ironical for myself to conduct interviews of people I was gonna take in. So one of the things that is very important is that your employees, when you're starting a company, your employee is not someone who is gonna join to run a code. Your employee is someone who's going to join because they believe in your idea. For example, when I graduated out of college and we had 4 months before the funding, besides 3 of us, we had 4 more people who worked with us. And remember, they also never sat for the placement, and they didn't have any equity or any stake in the company. And at the same time, the company was nothing. Even if they had equity, what's the value that the company is at? There is no funding. But at the same time, none of them left the company, stayed with us, and are even there till today. And did I take any particular interview of them? I would say no, I didn't. I had a conversation with them. I told them about what I was going to build, and I listened to what they had to say. And I think it's a journey. So you have to treat, when you're opening and starting a company, you have to treat your first, your any set of employees, and I hope to continue this culture. You have to set that set of employees as someone who is going to be your founding team. They are gonna take this as their company. So if the reason that you are doing this, the reason it has to be the same reason why they are doing this. Both of you have to believe in the dream. So I think finding the talent is difficult, but what I look at more than technical skills, even though we are a very deep tech product, is alignment of vision. Because no matter how skilled the other person is, if the alignment of vision is not there, it won't happen. So I feel that's the only thing we look at. You can have any number of technical interviews, but at the end of it, you should have a very honest, frank conversation with the other person and see that if your thoughts and their thoughts match. And you should always try for people who bring new things to the table, who can contradict you. So for example, I at least try to understand that if I'm having a interview, is the other person trying to contradict me in anything I'm saying, and or is trying to answer a certain riddle in a way that I have solved it in a different way. So I try to find something different in the other person, at the same time an alignment of vision. So that's how I do it, and it's very personal. There might be 1,000 ways of doing it, but as I said, I have never taken an interview. I don't know what the formal process is like, but this is what I follow as a practice.
Evelyn, your thoughts on the same?
Sure. I think same, right? I think, see, skills are something that you can learn. Did I think that a year back, did I think that I would be in a space where I'd be looking at financial projections and sheets and so many numbers, right? When I was in a totally different kind of sector altogether, right? But that's something that I learned, right? Because I need it for my job, right? Likewise, somebody joining your company is also kind of joining because they kind of believe in the vision. And all the people that we've also got on board onto Ava today is somebody who there are people who reached out to me and they said, hey, we love what you're doing and we want to be a part of it, right? So that is I think that sets the edge for me, because I have always been with early stage startups, and I always look at just one thing. I had this passion when I joined any startup, right? Where I believed in their vision, where I wanted to take it to those heights. And I used to always just, before I join any startup, have a goal for myself personally, and have a goal that I want to see the company reach, after an X amount of time. And if you don't have that goal, you might as well kind of not go ahead and join it. So for anybody joining even Ava, right, I look at that. Do they come with that passion that they see themselves in a space after a couple of years down the line, and they see the company also growing, and reaching that space after a couple of years down the line, right? I have people who've joined from different sectors. Somebody joined from event management, but the passion that they showed towards what you're building, right, and they connect with that really matters. And skills are something that you learn along the way and master. If the wish is there, you'll always kind of go ahead and master a skill. But if you do not believe in what you're doing, you'll never kind of end up learning it. So I think, it just matters that they stand alongside you when you're building your startup, and they're not somebody who you have to kind of keep teaching every day. They should stand alongside you.
Great, thanks, Evelyn. And Ninad, just building on that, you've been an ex-CEO for a large education company, Aptech, and ex-managing director for a very large IT company, Computer Associates, managing 5,000 to 10,000 employees. What would your thoughts and suggestions be to these early stage founders who are currently hiring, looking for employees, and don't have the necessary tools or the manpower, but still can leverage, social media like LinkedIn, so on and so forth? And with your experience in terms of working for large organizations and now managing startups as well, could you share your key insights and learnings?
Things have changed a lot. So what I've learned is I have to unlearn. So I've unlearned and I've relearned. The fact of the matter is today people are not looking for jobs. They're looking for something exciting. The days of a steady job, end of the month, steady pay are over. So that's exciting. Can there be a more exciting place to work than a startup? The short answer is no. So you have to get people who share that excitement, who get that deep job content, who when they're done on the weekend on Saturday, they wonder, oh God, why is the weekend in between Monday? These are the kind of people you have to look for, and there are plenty of them. The folks which startup founders have to look are not the guys who are looking for jobs, and that kind of tribe is dwindling very fast. You have to look for someone who identifies with the excitement, identifies with your passion, and identifies the fact that you're going to make a difference not only to yourself, your life, your meaning, but also to the world. And there are plenty of such people. You have to just identify, uh, is someone identifying with the problem which Evelyn is trying to solve? That person will be very different from the person identifying with the problem which Rajit is going to solve. It's as simple as that, and it can happen. So, Shashank, a lot of people are asking about how to get in touch with 100X. So maybe you could give our generic email ID, and at this point, so before any of them drop off, so maybe you can tell them how to get in touch with us.
Yes. So, at the bottom of the screen, you can see our email ID, pitch@100x.vc. And feel free to kind of send in your pitch decks over here. This is the best way to reach 100x.vc. We are very quick in terms of responding. So if you've sent in your decks, and be rest assured that we respond in a day or two. Ninad, we have a question by the audience, uh, you know, specifically in terms of what parameters do you see when you're funding an education startup? And what are your thoughts in terms of the education drive and trend?
So the parameters are the same, the founders, the market size, the mode, which I mentioned earlier. But specifically on edtech and edutech startups, we firmly believe that India will be the capital of the world and the laboratory of the world for edtech startups. The kind of depth and the width of problems connected to education which are there in India, no other country has. And that affords a fantastic opportunity for someone thinking out of the box. The recent problems, unfortunate, the health problems the world is facing, but that has thrown a totally exciting opportunity. Education as a sector has always been slow to adapt and adopt technology. Suddenly, there's a rapid change. There's a massive opportunity. Grab it. We will fund you.
So we're running short of time. I have the last question, and then I'll get everyone's final thoughts. My last question is, there's a very specific question. Maybe Ninad, you can take this one. Why do angels and VCs fade away from sectors like agriculture?
That's not true. We have in class two funded startup in agritech. It's not true that VCs do not fund. Yes, it's a sector probably VCs are not so familiar, and it takes time. It takes time, but increasingly there's a fantastic opportunity there. So if you have an agritech startup, send us a pitch deck, pitch@100x.vc. We'll have a look at it and we'll respond fast.
Great. Uh, Thank you. Ninad, Evelyn, Rajit, your final thoughts for founders who are building out their minimal viable products, proof of concepts, or companies with early traction, and are looking to raise their first check. Uh, what would your recommendation be when they are approaching a VC? A, and B, in terms of uh, should they should they send out only their pitch deck, or should they say send out something additional? Your thoughts of founders applying for a first check from early stage funds.
You want to go at it, Evelyn and Rajit?
I'll sure. I'll take that first. So I think, yeah, along with your pitch deck, I had a couple of people who kind of reached out to me on LinkedIn and said, hey, we want to apply to 100X, and what's the process that we should follow. I'll give you my personal journey, what I did before I did apply for 100X. Of course, you need to do your homework. You need to kind of understand the entire your business really well first thing. I think what helped me really is, again, reiterating, I did go through all of the live sessions that 100X conducts, which are really insightful. It will give you an understanding of even the safe notes if it's something that you're not aware of. There are training sessions by everybody on the team on different topics, so do kind of go through that. Apart from that, I think also putting out your email out there really well, right? In terms of probably some people do not have the time to kind of click on the slide deck and go through all of it. If you have a small snippet of what you're doing, and if you're able to intrigue that interest into who's reading it, to actually go down to the pitch deck and open your pitch deck and go through it, that'd be fantastic. So always kind of, if you're able to formulate your email really well and get that interest going. But that apart, I think 100X definitely they stand by their word in terms of saying that we reply to every pitch that we receive. They definitely do. Yeah, I think you should be knowing, I think GTM, your market size, how you're going to reach that market. These are some things that I think you should definitely concentrate on, include in your pitch deck and your email as well. So yeah, those are a few pointers.
Okay.
Thanks,
So I think if I had to send a pitch deck again to 100X.VC for any for the next or Data Sutram raising another round, what I would probably focus on is what is the problem I'm solving, and how am I solving it, and what is the future of what I am doing. I think if I can focus on these three things, and if I can focus on how the future of what I'm building is relevant to the current world status or to the current situation that we are living in, that's what's meant by market size. Market size is just a reflection of where the future of your space is going to be. If I can bring that story out in very simple words, in a very simple pitch deck, and maybe a short 30-60 seconds video of yourself, the founder, talking on it and explaining just that part, I think that's wonderful. So I think if you can just focus on these three things, I think it's a good point to start off with any investor, because at the end of the day, investor wants to know your solution, your problem, and of course the last and the most important part, who you are and why you are doing this. I think that if these 4 points are covered, I think you're all set. Send a pitch deck, send a 1-minute video, send it any format, but make it crystal clear, make it simple, try to make it very simple. And I'll end with just one thing. That is what I've always kept as one principle for myself. That is, there were two mathematicians, Euler and Lagrange, and one of them, when they wrote a formula, took to the other person, they asked them that, can I publish it? The professor told the student that, can you go and explain this to a 6-year-old person and also to a 80-year-old person? So if you can, then you have done it right. So before you send your pitch deck, you should understand that you've got it very simply covered. And the more you try to rehearse and get it simply covered, I think you've hit the nail. So all the best, and wish to see you at class 3.
Thanks, Rajit. Ninad, your final thoughts?
Well, my final thoughts, this is probably the most exciting time to have a startup in India, the most exciting time to raise funds. It's a journey of wealth, not a journey of income. It's a fabulous journey of wealth. At 100X, we will show you the way. Send us your pitch deck and we will help you along. So all the best, and get going with your startup.
Thank you, Ninad, Evelyn, Rajit, for taking the time out, and thank you, audience, for tuning in. And hope we were able to address your questions. I missed a few, but I think I covered most of them. And as mentioned, class 3 applications are open. We are ready to invest in our next set of portfolio companies. We've already started evaluating the companies. Some of you asked us whether there's a last day for an application. There is none. The sooner the better. We have a rolling basis kind of a scenario. So if you're able to send in your pitch decks quickly, and we'll be able to evaluate them quickly, and then get going quickly. So looking forward to entrepreneurs sending us newer decks, and we'll respond to you very quickly. Again, thank you, Ninad, thank you, Evelyn, and thank you, Rajit, for taking the time out. And
Thank you, Shashank.
all the very
Thanks.
best. Take
Thanks.
care.
Thank you. Thank you.
Same.